You're listening to the World FootyNet podcast. Welcome to the World FootyNet podcast. You can email us at podcast@worldfooty.net or alternatively, post your comments on the World FootyNet Facebook page.
For this special milestone 40th episode, we present two segments to the show today. In the first segment, Hooligan continues his discussion with Soccer Reform's Ted Westervelt as they continue discussing Atlanta's participation in the U.S. Open Cup. In part, they react to the official statements from the Atlanta Silverbacks about the recent venue change. In our second segment of the show, Hooligan moderates a supporters roundtable discussion with panelists from around the world as they debate issues on domestic soccer in the United States and some of the frustrations supporters have on the current setup in the country. Sit back and enjoy this extra special episode.
Welcome to a special edition of the WFN Podcast. I'm Hooligan J. Broom, and tonight I'm joined by Ted Westervelt. How are you doing, Ted?
Good. Yourself, Jay?
I'm doing well, and also our ever loyal engineer, Dre Footy.
Hello, everyone.
And we're back again with Ted to kind of continue the conversation that we were having earlier in the week about the debacle of the U.S. Open Cup and how Atlanta and Minnesota sold their home field advantage. Both teams have put out statements. Of course, money being the driving force behind it. The numbers, the clubs haven't confirmed this, but I have through pretty reliable sources that Atlanta got a little less than $150,000, and Minnesota got a little less than $100,000.
Hey, Jay, just go ahead and throw this in there. How much does it cost to travel that team, to travel the Silverbacks? I mean, what are you guys thinking about that? I mean, they got to go to Seattle. I don't know they got to go to Edmonton, and they're probably stringing these things together and whatnot. But I mean, that's not an insignificant proportion of $100,000 to travel the entire team out to Seattle, right?
Right. And that's, I mean, you kind of got to weigh it. Definitely the Seattle trip. I think easy, 25 people, hotels, that's spur of the moment travel. So you don't have that 2-week window. Right. So I think you're probably looking, probably close to 1,000 or more a person, and that's for coach.
And that's just the airplane ride.
Yeah, not to mention the hotel, food, all that. I think
I mean, it's not like you start taking this thing just starts to cut down, and it's not even. It starts to get down under $100,000, I think, and it's certainly under 100 for the Minnesota Stars, from what I understand. Before travel, I mean, then you add travel, and then wow.
Yeah, I mean, under in the statements the Silverbacks have put out, of course, none of us are there and know their finances top to bottom, So I don't really want to try to burn them and pretend like I know finances more than I do, but I mean, one would think with the park, the salaries of the staff and team, 120 grand is going to operate, even a second division club for no more than, 45, 60 days.
It's just interesting to talk about it because that's one of the oft-heard excuses for why we can't move forward with stuff like promotion relegation because of the travel costs of the team. And it's just interesting that in this case it kind of cuts the other way.
Yeah, I mean, Ted, what do you think about the small amount of money that these clubs were essentially they were bribed with? I mean, let's call it what it is.
You can't blame a Minnesota Stars or I understand that these clubs are in difficult situations, and even some of the MLS bloggers, most notably Oshan with the Sounders, one of the Sounders' big bloggers, who's a pretty smart guy, but he even admitted that in these times and without promotion and relegation to sort of charge up the finances of these clubs, they're working under some pretty stressful conditions. And so I can't throw this on the clubs. And the only thing the backstop for this kind of behavior has got to be U.S. Soccer. And they got to care about this tournament. And going back and forth on Twitter today, I just don't think it's too much to say either they're pissing away the legacy of this tournament or they're pissing on the tournament by allowing this to happen. And it's such a incredibly rich history that's just sitting there being unused. It's one of the most frustrating things that I face in trying to get people to think about this system.
Yeah, myself, our engineer Dre, being supporters of the Atlanta club, of course we're upset, but from Twitter feed and the Facebook post, and as I was discussing with a couple of people within the club, I think what's really at issue here with many of the supporters or supposed supporters, they're attacking the wrong problem. Yes, be mad at the club. Yes, it was all said and done for the amount of money we could have gotten that at home. We really could have. And maybe not the sum total, but close to it.
Hey, take out the travel costs.
Right. Because we could have sold out our venue. Word of mouth would have gone fast enough and pulled people into that game. Mm-hmm. That's just fact. And charge $20-$25 a head, no one would have a problem with it. Mm-hmm. But again, I think really at fault at the end of the day, the real problem that nobody except maybe us is addressing is the United States Federation, that they allow this. And, for me,
or why is it in their interest to allow the tournament just to be disrespected like this? And I'm sorry. Is that indignance? Right. Is that, you can call that whatever you want. For me, it's not really indignance. It's more of, I'm astonished that you have this gem of a tournament that just gets consistently slandered. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I've been asking this for 2 weeks, but I don't think U.S. Soccer has tweeted once about this tournament. I've not seen it. Maybe somebody else has seen it, but no, I've not seen one tweet from U.S. Soccer on this tournament. There's a level of disattachment, and frankly, it's historic. It goes all the way back. So it doesn't surprise me. But at this point in time, this tournament's turning 100 next year. Can't they? There's got to be a way to make a buck off this if you aggressively market it. There's got to be a way to do it.
I don't.
It's epic. The history is epic, and we all have this access to all the pictures and all the stories on the internet. For crying out loud, hire somebody to put together a slideshow, some kind of documentary. Put it on YouTube, something. And I've been trying to put together something like that. But U.S. Soccer has all this stuff stored away in some warehouse somewhere. Haul it out, make a freaking documentary, and send this tournament somewhere where it belongs, which is in the highest echelons. It needs to be. The respect is about. It's about this sport in this country. You can't. To ignore it is foolish on about 25 different levels.
Well, you said a couple of things in there that I think are very interesting. Conversation that I was having with someone today is, this is the part of the sport that Americans, for the most part, definitely don't get, which is this game models itself in this country after the other major sports and puts the business before the passion of it. If they would take this tournament and put passion before business, I think they would see a 1,000% turnaround. And not only that, but they see 1,000% profit. How many localities they would bring into the fold that would get excited about this.
I think their mistake oftentimes is that when they hear the word passion, they think it's not good business. Wherein you and I both know that passion is darn good business, because it means that somebody shows up when it's 30 degrees outside. It's somebody who shows up in the pouring rain. It's a team that has, that, okay, I only have a week's notice to do a U.S. Open Cup match. You do it and that's good, and you fire people up, and it matters that they show up, because that support enables you to do things with the team. And this gets turned around, and we've seen it with Boris's statement, where it gets turned around where it's like, well, cart before the horse, you support us, and then maybe we can get you a better team. But first, you have to support us. And that there's something about that equation. I mean, that equation is what's gotten me into this whole thing. Like, that equation I started to turn that around in my head and said, how are you going to attract people if you're not putting a product on the field? I mean, is this you're turning into sort of a nonprofit bake sale marketing approach of, well, you come and support us, and then that'll help us put a better product on the field if we can. But it's not. It's always gotten turned like that, and it's wrong. It's just wrong.
Yeah, and I think I can't speak for the Stars because I'm not associated with that organization really, but for the Silverbacks, they're missing it. The passion is already there.
Yeah.
And that's what they're missing. If the passion wasn't there, would anyone show up for a team that's won 5 out of 37 games since they started again? Would anyone show up?
But certainly, when decisions like this are made, I think we both agree that this cuts into the passion. I mean, how passionate can you be for an owner and a system that allows these games just to be traded like this, just to be sold on the open market? I don't understand. This is, for me, this gets to be lowest common denominator stuff with you can't complain about Sepp Blatter if you're Sunil Gulati and you're allowing this stuff to go on. And I mean, I know we all want to give the sob stories about, oh, well, all these teams are so poor, and gosh, here's a way for them to cash in real quick on $150,000, and that's what gosh, if we could do it any other way, we would. And again, you go back to that in the key demographics, the Latino demographic, the under 24 demographic, soccer second only to NFL, and we're wasting that opportunity. I mean, how is a team in Atlanta? It's right there. It's ready to be plucked, but it's not happening. It's just when this tournament gets turned around, I mean, the legacy is just right there. It's insane. But anyway, that's
I mean, it's I think the club has really, because one of the things that was put to me by someone in the club tonight was a lot of the people that burn the club on Facebook and Twitter, and I noticed this as well. I'm glad I got proof of it tonight, that were saying they'd never come out to a match again, and that they'd never been to a match in the first place.
Yeah.
I'm not okay with that, because there are us supporters that do go win, lose, or draw and support this club.
Right.
Now, on the other end of that, maybe they did want to see a higher caliber of footy being played. So the Sounders visiting here would be their first game.
Mm-hmm.
But you missed the opportunity for them to see that there was a fan base here.
Right.
And not only that, a screaming, passionate, fan base.
I can't blame the fans in Atlanta for stepping back. I mean, I wouldn't blame them after this. You can't blame the fans, and at the same time, you can't blame the club, and you can't blame. Eventually, where this has to go is U.S. soccer. I mean, the whole kit and caboodle could have been solved, and I have a lot of questions for a lot of these clubs, like on the level of communication that took place going into these decisions. I mean, they made a big deal about changing the rules so that Seattle couldn't just get these home games by being the highest bidder, and then what do you know? It all flips around and it happens, and it happens pretty quickly and seemingly pretty efficiently, almost like it was perhaps preordained. But these are things we don't know yet, and these are things that I think it's really important that we try to find out.
Well, it is, and I think it kind of goes to, unfortunately, the kind of crap soccer culture that exists in this country versus anywhere else you go in the world.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, here in Atlanta, we have a lot of American outlaws for the U.S. national team. I suspect probably some Sam's Army guys too. Well, guess what? They don't come out and support their local.
Right.
But they will go en masse. They're probably en masse right now in Jacksonville for the U.S. national game tomorrow.
Yep.
And we have it's a disease of it.
It's the club. Hey, that national team. Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm talking over here.
Their local club, to where in the rest of the world, it's exactly opposite.
Right.
The national team has a hard time attracting, but your local club, even if you are garbage, even if you're a blue square team in England, you're probably going to have your stands full or close to it every game.
Certainly, some of them do.
Yeah, and
I think it's because I think it's that USMNT dynamic is to me. It's because that's about as close to the real deal in terms of an unlimited team that we got. I mean, one way or another, all of our clubs in the United States are limited. I don't care if they're MLS. I don't care if they're NASL. They're all working within basically a caste system. And I think part of that men's national team excitement is based around the fact that that's the one place we do soccer like everybody else. And that's the one place we can be part of the global market without any tendrils of league control, right, or Division II standing and franchise fees and all the other stuff that I think I think a lot of that stuff is conspiring to sort of limit interest in a lot of American sports. But
yeah, I think it is too. I mean, it's almost like it's a scheme. I mean, it really, someone that really pays attention. I mean, and it may not be conspiratorial in nature, but it surely comes across like that to many of us that watch it.
Yeah, a comment here from the engineer's booth right quick, okay. and it's just something I observed in the last few days, in that there's been a lot of talk about the profit and making money, and the fact that the club is losing money each year.
The consistent argument of the promotion relegation denier as well. So, yeah.
Absolutely. But I think one thing that we're all missing, well, I say we, but I think they are missing, is that if you're looking for a long-term solution to the money problem, then you should allow that game to be played here, even with the thought of this year losing on the whole monetarily a certain amount of money. You're going to gain a fan base that you have not had in the past.
Right.
If you show that you care more about not only the game, but the fans than just pocketing the money now. So I think that the short-sightedness of what they're doing now and trying to even out their profits for this year could, in the long term, hurt the club, because they've alienated so many people, and they don't the fans themselves, the hardcore fans like ourselves, we're not taking the club or the front office seriously. And I use that term front office loosely. I don't mean individuals out there, but I think that point is I've read through Boris's response in his interview on the website, and I just don't see that mentioned. I don't see anything that alludes to any subject outside of the money, and I think that's a mistake.
And we've touched on this before. It's that money argument has become so pervasive that I think it pretty much trumps everything at this point. And everything has become about how, this D1 soccer and these teams must survive by any means necessary. And, when you're selling the integrity of the U.S. Open Cup, which is easy to do for some of these guys because a lot of the kids out there, certainly if you're under 24, you don't know about Archie Stark. You don't know about Burt Patnaud or the Marksman. You don't know about, Maccabi LA. You don't know about all these teams that went through this and did this. And you probably, you listen when they say, when people out there who are the doubters of the U.S. Open Cup say, oh, it's a bunch of amateur teams, when in fact there's been an amateur U.S. Open Cup that's been in existence for as long as the U.S. Open Cup. So right there, you've got, it's not this tournament, it just gets slandered and the misinformation spills out about it. And there is no effort that I've seen from U.S. soccer at all to correct these inaccuracies. Yeah. It's just some people on Twitter. It's just some people on Facebook. And you got to be out there saying, there are some massive stories back there. And get back there, check it out, go to American Soccer History Archives, go check it out. I mean, it's the real deal, and I don't know what the price is when you're ripping at the integrity of the U.S. Open Cup, but it's real, and you're missing a market opportunity, but you are doing something a little bit more. I mean, it's the oldest national Open Cup in the New World. I mean, you're going all the way back to the Model T on this thing, and you're going back before World War I, and the stories are. I don't know. I don't know what I get more upset about, just the fact that it's all getting lost, or the fact that it's a massive missed marketing opportunity,
unrealized potential,
massive. Ted, let's sum up with this. And Dre, you can get in on this too. Do you guys think the supporters, after all this hullabaloo that's gone on and the internet, I mean, honestly, I'm surprised some servers didn't crash. Do you think the supporters' voices will be taken into consideration a little more from here on? And do you think the U.S. Federation has taken notice of this, especially in the Atlanta market?
Go ahead, Ted.
Yeah.
I think of all of this stuff, and as frustrating as it all is to watch, the greatest thing is that, and I've been doing this for 3 years and tracking this subject for 3 years or so pretty closely, so I've never seen this kind of reaction. And some of the MLS bloggers can just pass it off as whatever, nobody really knows about this thing, or you're just this is just a tournament of amateurs, and they can talk about it that way, but this was a real reaction, and it got out pretty far, and that is good news. And I think that's the kind of thing, no matter if you want promotion relegation, no matter if you want a better national team, no matter if you want better MLS clubs, whatever form of improvement you want to see in this game, it's going to require a little more passion and a whole lot more demand just from average supporters. The free market alone and market forces alone are not going to make this game better. It's going to have to come from the supporters.
Yep.
And to kind of dovetail on that, I think that what we have seen in the past few years with U.S. soccer, NASL, MLS, is a state of denial. And I think that despite the fact that the voices have been so loud after these events, I think they really do think it's going to go away. And it's really incumbent upon the fans to not let it die.
Yeah,
right.
If they let it die, then U.S. soccer has won, and they get to keep the status quo.
It's
But
interesting out there, Dre. If you look out there right now on the blogs, there are more blogs defending the status quo and saying all of this is just made up hooey.
Exactly.
And there are blogs complaining about it.
Yeah.
So right there, you can kind of get a feel. For me, when I see something like that, I say, there's a little bit of doth protest too much going on.
Yeah.
There with this. I mean, they're in damage control mode.
Exactly.
Really.
Exactly.
They are. They're trying to cover their butts because nobody. I know here in Atlanta, and it's obvious. And I mean, I hate it for many of the good people in the front office at the Silverbacks. I really hate it for them.
Hey, you can't do this game. There are people playing this game and doing this game for nothing out there, and it's not their fault. These are not. There are plenty of people that want to see this changing, who are working in the game and who are starving doing it. And they want to see these changes, and they want to see this happen. And by all means, and I think I touched on this before, it's hard in Twitter not to say they, but I agree with you 100% that the vast majority of people working in this game want it to be better and want it to go in the right direction. There's just a few people with a whole lot of money that have a different idea.
Right. So, do you think, last thing on the horizon tonight, do you think we will see more of this madness moving forward?
It's going to be great to watch. For all this stuff that's going on, the other story here is Cal FC. I mean, that's awesome. And I will forget about all of that when I'm watching Eric Winalda's team play the Timbers in Gelbland Field. That is going to be a good one. And those kids he's put together, I think they're a lot like the kids we've sort of talked about a little bit, Jay. I mean, these are the kids that kind of get passed over, and these are the kids that maybe bounced around in Europe for a little bit and came home, and MLS for some reason decided that they weren't good enough. And Winalda seems to have a pretty good eye for him, all things being equal. And that 4-0 victory I talked to a couple people who were at that game and said that was not fluky. I mean, these kids can play, and I'm really looking forward to that game, and I hope that I can find a place to go watch it with some other people that get into it as much as I do, because this is a classic NCAA basketball Cinderella story moment for this tournament, and if you can capitalize on it, it's enormous. And know darn well Winalda will not let anybody forget everything he's done in this tournament, and I want him to be able to say at the end that he went further than. I mean, I don't know what Vegas is calling on this game, but I want a piece of it. I definitely want a piece of it because he's got a shot. He's got a shot with these guys from everything I can gather.
And just in what you're describing, what I just heard from you is supporter passion in understanding that just Cal FC, just like watching a Notts County in England make it to a round with the big boy. Even if you're a neutral, you root for the underdog.
That's right.
Because it's beautiful to see. And maybe the MLS will take notice of some of these kids at Cal FC that did get passed over.
It's incredible that people argue, and I used to see this argument more. It's fun to watch this argument evolve. We've talked about that a little bit, but one of the things that's fun to see evolve is one of the common arguments I got a couple of years ago was Americans don't understand. They just want winners. They want a Yankees. They just want to see the best team on the field. And I think the NCAA basketball tournament just continues to shine out as that example of, Americans love underdog stories.
Right.
I mean, who doesn't love Rudy? I mean, it's everywhere. It's all part of our, and it was fun to watch that argument kind of shift. But that was one of those ones that always came out a couple years back. It's an immigrant game, and people only want winners. And I think this tournament, this tournament right now, even with everything that's gone wrong, could still be a watershed moment for proving that Americans don't want to just see David Beckham on the field. They don't want to just see Thierry Henry. They want something else. There's something else they're looking for in this game that they're not getting it. And Cal FC might do a pretty good job of illustrating that.
Yep. I agree. Well, Ted, for tonight, we're going to leave it there, my friend.
Alrighty.
Thank you very much for your time.
Always a pleasure.
And have a good Memorial Day weekend.
Happy Memorial Day.
Stay tuned to the show. After a brief commercial break, we'll return with a roundtable discussion on the state of the game in the United States.
If someone's trying to look up your business on the internet, will they find you? Or are you still without a website? Let cmather.com get your business website up and running so your customers can find you. cmather.com can even maintain your current site. It's so easy and it won't break your budget. See the amazing deals for yourself at cmather.com. The letter C, CMATHER.com, or call 1300 628 437. cmather.com.
Hello. Are you ready for a custom home theater or whole house media system? How about IP video surveillance, home lighting control, or whole house automation to simplify your life? Welcome to Atlanta Audio Consultants, your one-stop shop for professional, state-of-the-art home electronics design and installation. We're licensed, insured, and certified by a number of professional organizations, including CEDIA, so you know you're working with home technology specialists. And you know you can depend on us since we've earned the highest rating from the Better Business Bureau. We guarantee our work and are very proud to share our customer references with you. Explore our solutions here online. View the functionality and beauty of our work in our portfolio. Read what our customers say about us. Then call or click Contact Us to learn more. And schedule an in-home consultation today.
Atlanta Audio Consultants, home theater, home automation, and lighting control, all at the touch of a button. Call 770-977-9110. Welcome back to the second segment of this special Podcast 40 focusing on United States domestic soccer. As a note to the guests, we're introducing a new contributor to WFN. His name is David Casares, and he writes for the Lone Star Sports Ledger. He's also a member of the San Antonio supporters group, the Crocketeers. He'll be covering both the domestic game in the United States as well as various international topics with us. Hooligan is moderating this segment and will introduce the rest of the supporters.
Also, we have with us the infamous Bobby Fu.
This is Bobby. You can follow me at septic_Dooner for all the football and non-football banner and Spurs hating you can handle.
Yeah, that's right.
And we have Macam Lag Kurt Hunt with us.
Yeah, yes, you can follow me at Twitter at MacamLadKurt, or if you wish to find me in person, you can find me at the local 8 a.m. meeting. So yeah, I'm MacamLadKurt.
Check the police blotter as well.
And tonight we have a very special guest. The lovely Alex is with us. How are you doing, Alex?
I'm doing great. You can follow me on Twitter at AlexB, that's ALEKSBNEE, or on footballisfunny.tumblr.com.
All right, and also last but not least, we have our faithful engineer, Dre Footy.
Hello, everyone. This is Dre Footy in the engineer's box today. I'm going to try to keep everybody in line if I can. You can follow me with Twitter at Dre Footy. You can also follow World Footy Net at WFootyNet, and just follow us and get involved in the banner.
All right, and I'm your not so grateful host, Hooligan Broom, and that's my Twitter handle, Hooligan Broom, and you can follow me for all the gum-chewing fire and Spurs hating you can handle as well.
Stabbings.
Yeah, stabby. Just depends on the evening and the mood. Well, we're gonna get into this, guys, and just pipe up as you feel the need. First thing I want to address, especially here locally in Atlanta. I know you guys that are not local have no doubt read. But how do you think this Open Cup venue change disaster will affect supporter relations. And, I don't know. I mean, there's the passive supporter, and then there's people like us that are diehards. I think it's a real travesty that one team can buy the home field advantage from another.
I agree. It should be fairly even. Should be really, really even.
David, you got any take on this?
Yeah, I thought it was a joke at first. You know how things start flying off on a social network, and I started seeing the feeds on Twitter, and I thought it was a joke, and lo and behold, it's for real, and it's just, it's unbelievable what's happening. I can't imagine what the recourse would be here in San Antonio if the organization did that. We're playing Houston Tuesday. I would think that you'd probably see a 50% drop-off, if not more, immediate drop-off in supporters if that was to happen here in San Antonio.
I mean, you guys would have a riot over there. I know some of your supporters, and there would be a damn riot, no doubt.
No, there would be a riot. And, the unique thing about our supporters group here, the Crocketeers, is they started 3 years ago, 3 years before San Antonio Scorpions even showed up. So they played an integral part in bringing the Scorpions here to San Antonio. So for that to happen, you're right, man. It would be a riot.
And I think your club gets it. My understanding, you can correct me if I'm wrong, you guys, between the casuals, the Crocketeers, the ultras, you guys basically designed the club badge and did scarves. And the club was in contact with y'all from day one.
Oh, you're absolutely correct. From day one, we've been a part of the San Antonio Scorpions. And the three groups that you mentioned, those are probably the three. There's only 4 or 5 total, but those are the 3 biggest groups. And I noticed in some soccer stadiums that here in America that the supporter groups, they're sitting on opposite ends or different sections and doing their own thing. Here we have one, well, it's 2 now because we're so big, but we're all sitting in the same section, or we're all one group. Come game time, it's one family. It's not 4 or 5, 6 different supporter groups, doing their own different things, doing their different chants. The majority of us, I'd say 90% of the supporter groups march into the stadium as one big group. And it just, I don't know. I see the fractious relationships going on at somewhere like FC Dallas, and it just amazes me how a team can cut their supporters groups off like that.
Yeah, it really is. Food locally. What is your take on this madness?
Well, it's interesting because I understand, in the FA Cup and the usually if the lower level team gets the draw, they can decide where they want to hold the match. But conversely, to sell it is just something entirely different. And I know money is a big issue for everyone involved. But I mean, let's face it. This is, and I've tweeted it 100 times. I'll probably tweet it another 100 times. If the whole project of professional football in this country is to grow the game and to grow attendance and to grow popularity, then what's going to have to happen is big teams are going to have to play in markets like Atlanta where there is no MLS and there is no big professional draw. And this is a failure on the United States Soccer Federation part to have this in play, the opportunity to do this.
Right.
And a lot of people were bitching about Seattle buying it because Seattle, this will be their 3rd year in a row they've done this, to have a home field match. And that's for me, that's crap. The LA Galaxy, who I hate with a passion, or going to North Carolina, to this tiny podunk place in North Carolina to play a match against the Carolina Railhawks.
Yep.
You know? And that tells you that they're willing to grow the game, although Cary, North Carolina does have a history, at least, with U.S. soccer. But, I mean, you know, why wouldn't you want to come here to a place, because, you know, the entire Southeast United States doesn't have a big club anymore.
Right.
So if you want to grow and make things bigger and better and give everyone an opportunity to see what MLS is about or what professional football is about in this country, then you have to go and visit places like Atlanta. You know, and that's really disappointing to me. I might have gone a little overboard by tweeting to the owner of the, you know, Microsoft, but still.
Yeah.
CEO. But, you know, hey, you only live once.
Absolutely.
You have to do it, though. You have to do it.
Alex, what is your take on this madness? How do you feel about a big team being able to buy out a little team? You think it grows the game, or you think it demeans the integrity of the U.S. Cup?
I think that it definitely demeans the integrity of the U.S. Open Cup, and it's just advertising and marketing opportunities being wasted, and obviously money-making opportunities being wasted. And I feel like losing the chance to make big money in the long term for the sake of having like guaranteed sum now, prioritizing like that's the sign of a coward. You have to be willing to take risks in football to be successful. I mean, look at the WPS now, you know?
Yeah.
That's what happens when you don't have great venues for supporters to come out and you don't have money for the long term. So I think that if stuff like this keeps up in the Open Cup over the years, it's not going to be great for the NASL.
Right.
Yeah.
I totally agree with that. And you know, I don't know if y'all are aware that the sums of money that I have through pretty reliable sources tell me the Silverbacks got a little less than $150,000, and the Minnesota Stars, to go to Real Salt Lake, got a little less than $100,000.
Wow.
That money, when you're talking about a sports organization, even the size of an NASL club, I mean that money seems like peanuts to me. And you know, it was reported on the site that we were going to buy players with that, and we're going to have an MLS exhibition match and
fan appreciation night.
Yeah, I saw that.
Fan appreciation night was already in the works. I mean, we can throw that one out the window. That's spin. But
all were probably in the works, but go ahead.
Well, yeah. I mean, it might have all been in the works, and this was just the opportunity to throw it out there to attempt damage control. But I think that's chump change to bribe a team. I don't think it's enough. What do you guys think?
I think that they can't possibly buy players with that. That's like the salary of one MLS player, not from like New York or one of those bigger teams, you know?
Yeah. Absolutely. Kurt?
It absolutely sickens me that teams like Seattle can go ahead and think, you know, that they're the big poker team in the league. That they can go ahead and buy the team that people actually like fear them, that, you know, they can be the big dogs in the team, you know, they're like the Manchester City of you know, America. It's absolutely ridiculous. They think that they can pretty much get away with anything, that they can go around the whole of America and say, you know, we're loaded, we can do anything, we can have any venue, anywhere, and I'm not sure who runs the MLS, but it absolutely sickens me, you know. It's like, take Sepp Blatter for example. He he is slowly ruining football, and that absolutely kills me. You know, I mean, I would take a bullet to the face for my football team. I'm pretty sure any views would do the same, and anyone from the MLS. And it absolutely sickens me that teams like Seattle can go around thinking that they're the top dogs of their region, and you know, it's just disgusting. I can't really say it any more on the matter.
See, and that's that passion that Kurt just gave is what's missing in this whole conversation that Boris, the owner of Atlanta, has had not only with this media outlet, but in general from the organization. Everyone's talking about, you know, we had to accept this money because it was too good to get, you know, to refuse. Right. What they're missing in the whole thing is there's not been one iota of information about the fans and what they're going to miss out on. Yeah, you accepted $150,000, and that's going to help your bottom line for this year. But what have you done besides alienate fans who could have, if you had brought the game here, you would have sold the venue out. You would have gained a number of fans for the future, which would have made up for the money you'd gotten anyway from Seattle. You know, you can't replace the loyalty and the passion that Kurt just expressed. You can't replace that with a check. You know, if you have people, and Ted said this earlier in the podcast, if you have passionate support, you're going to have guys coming out regardless of win, lose, or draw, 30 degrees below zero, and they're going to be in the stands screaming, yelling, and lighting off smoke bombs. You know, you're not going to have that when the fans see the ownership and they don't care enough about the game coming here to actually, you know, follow through with it. They'd rather just get the money and make sure that they get as close to in the black as they can. And so if that's the way you want to go, then that's the way the fans are going to view it. So you got your hardcore fans, and they're not going to take you seriously ever. Yep. Again, and I'm just really sick and tired of this. We got to make the money. We got to do that. If you get into this sport as an owner, you have to get into it for the right reason. If you want to make money, this is not the business for you.
Sports isn't the business.
I totally agree.
Yeah. And I'm really tired of that answer coming back from everybody. I just want to punch somebody in the face.
Yeah.
But anyway, I digress.
Well, let's face it, you know, I don't want to have a freaking friendly against the second team from MLS. I don't want a friendly. I want a competition match. I want a competitive match.
Absolutely.
Where our players and their players are willing to try and win and make it look and entertain the supporters. Because a friendly means absolutely. I don't watch friendlies. I don't pay attention to friendlies. I could give a crap about any sort of preseason matches. I don't watch the Emirates Cup because it means absolutely zero.
Right.
It means zero. So why would I want to spend money and go to a park and watch these people that even though I know our squad, the Atlanta Silverbacks are going to do their best and put on a show, this other team doesn't want to be here.
Yeah.
You know, because it means absolutely zero. Why would I want to watch something like that where someone's heart is not into it? You know, this Open Cup, last year I was really wishing the Silverbacks win it last year because I am pumped about any cup competition. That means something. You know, silverware is silverware, even if it doesn't look like silverware. But I mean, you know, that's to have that as part of the bribe. Oh, you're going to get this because that's all what the Seattle people were telling me. Oh, you guys are going to have a friendly though. I don't give two rat fucks about a friendly. I want to see a competition cup match in my home ground with my friends and everybody else around me, wanting my home team to win.
What's the friendly going to be? What are they replacing the game with?
Haven't been announced, has it?
No, they haven't announced it yet, but the management and God bless them. They're what they're missing is it'll pack the ground out. Well, sure, it'll pack the ground out. But again, like Food just said, the game doesn't mean anything. The game is meaningless. We packed the ground out. Irapuato, whoever we played at the end of last season.
Yeah.
Well, I say we packed that. No, we didn't really pack it out.
It didn't sell out, no.
No, it didn't sell out. The Mexican players had no interest in being there. If you had been at the ground, they were a pain in the ass.
Played half speed.
The game was pretty much a absolute disaster. And, many of the people there will never come back to the park. You didn't build any fans because they came to watch Blanco.
Yeah.
It's who they came to see. And nobody else. And I bet you a dime to a donut, 5 of those people have returned, and that's it. And they don't, the Silverbacks look like crap against that team. It's a second division Mexican team that beat them 2-0. I mean, come on. And Blanco was running around like he had rocks in his boots. I mean, David, and not for nothing, I think I know, again, your club gets it. Your management gets it. I don't think they'd even pull this maneuver against you guys.
And just to give you an example, I think, Dre, you mentioned someone was out there in the freezing rain. At the beginning of the season, we scheduled the game against the Galveston Pirates, and I can't tell you what league they're in. I think they're PDL. I'm not quite sure. But we had a bad ice storm come in that Friday. The game was pushed back to Saturday morning. There was about 100 people that showed up that morning for the game. All 100 of them were the supporters groups, beating drums, blowing those obnoxious vuvuzelas. But it was raining, it was cold, but the supporters were out there. And it's that show of support that, Hooligan, you keep saying our club gets it. It's that show of support that helps the organization get it. They see the supporters out there. They see them out there in the freezing rain when nobody else is out there. So it makes that decision not to sell out that home game a whole lot easier.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I keep harping on. The club is Silverbacks is intent on, well, if the people come out, and I keep looking at it and I go, we've won 5 out of 37 games, yet your support base is growing. And then you turn around and do this?
Yeah, there you go.
What maybe it makes, maybe in the back of someone's head, it makes business sense. To me, that doesn't even make business sense.
No.
I mean, it's beyond me. I really don't understand it. And not for nothing, I'll put this out there. The club advertised that match that was supposed to be at home with every intention, apparently, of it being at home. And as far as the staff was concerned, that's where it was going to be played. And back to the person that needs to be outed here as the bad guy, the chairman of the club, Boris, is the one that made the decision. They're putting out in pressers that he, talked to traffic and consulted many people. My sources say that's not the case, and I'm sure that could be argued down. I wasn't there myself, so nobody can say for certain. But I'm willing to bet he probably made 95% of that decision all by his lonesome. He got an answer back from one of his, quote unquote, yes men of don't do that. And he said, well, screw it, I'm going to do it anyway, because he didn't think there'd be any blowback from it. He didn't think he'd hear anything about it, not realizing, because he's not there all the time for the matches, that, we've gone from one supporters group at the beginning of last year to now 3. Support is growing. People are coming out. They recognize the passion. I bring up to, 12 to 13 people to every game, and they're new fans. I'm wondering if this case of instant gratification is going to end up being the undoing of the front office of Atlanta. I mean, anyone that's read the articles, what do y'all think of the excuses that have been spewed out by Boris, the chairman?
He can throw out whatever excuse he wants. It's still not going to be excusable to anybody. How the supporters can stand by and allow this to happen and not make a fuss about it. And by fuss, I mean by voice. I mean, I'm talking marching up to the doorsteps of the front office, and I'm talking full union picketing, man, because if they don't make a fuss about it, it's going to happen again and again and again.
Yeah.
It's got to be stopped.
It's been happening in Atlanta. And Fu can speak to that a little bit as well, since I haven't been here the whole time. I've been in and out to California and on the road as a truck driver. Fu, can you shed a little bit of light on?
Well, not since the Ruckus played the Seattle Sounders, I believe, for the final in the old USL, if I'm not mistaken.
A-League.
A-League, yeah.
It's A-League, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. And even then we weren't allowed in the U.S. Open Cup.
Yeah.
Because, the U.S. Soccer Federation was just being tools about it.
Yeah.
And, but see, the thing is, though, here in this country, at least, fans are treated as minor disturbances in the grand scheme of sports franchises.
Mm-hmm.
Especially professional. Now, college, different story. But professional sports franchises, they really don't care. I'm just going to give you an example. The Philadelphia Eagles have a 30-year waiting list for their season tickets. So if you get mad, it doesn't matter, because there's someone to spend $4,000 or $5,000 on season tickets. They don't care. Here in Atlanta, they really don't have that. But the Silverbacks should really look at the fact that, if we really want to gain supporters and gain people that are going to follow the team no matter what, like Jay, and periodically myself, luckily I'm changing jobs. I'll be out there every Saturday night now. But I mean, let's face it, if you're a passionate soccer supporter, you're going to go watch the matches. And you're really, much like the older people, I'm pretty sure, like I knew overseas, and same with Kurt, the older people don't go to every match anymore. But for a big cup match or the Northeast Derby, the Tyne-Ware Derby, the older folks are going to come out. Everybody's going to come out. Everybody and their grandmother is going to come out.
Right.
And that's what you want. You want that. I mean, what better showcase for big league soccer in this country than to have the Seattle Sounders, who have a very passionate supporters base, come to Atlanta. And people see that on television. I see it on television every now and then when I turn it on and I go, oh, great. And, but I mean, they see that and they go, oh, I want to be a part of that. And how in the world would you cut that off despite your face? I think despite your face.
Yeah. And that's what's been done here. You know, and not for nothing, the footy is different than any other sport in the world. It attracts a different person, generally speaking. You know, I don't have any hard demographics on that, but it really does attract a different type of person. And footy supporters, you know, in this country, it's growing. And the supporters groups model themselves off European groups generally, or South American groups. You know, that's what we have to look to. And, you know, when we're not taken seriously is the feeling I generally get, except in places, you know, like San Antonio. DC United has some serious supporters, and the club pays attention. You know, Seattle, Portland too, and the club pays attention to what they have to say. And it seems like some of these smaller clubs, like Atlanta, they don't get it.
I totally agree with that. Mm-hmm.
They just don't get the culture.
Yeah, I think that, speaking of the culture, I was going to say that I think that's what makes footy different from all the other sports. It's that there's an entire culture behind it, and I feel like that's why we should take advantage of the growing supporters and all these people who are inspired by the European teams and who are bringing their enthusiasm for that onto fields for whatever, MLS, NASL. I mean, even out here in New York City, like, every week I see more and more people in jerseys from, you know, AC Milan, Real Madrid, Barcelona, and the number is just constantly growing, you know. So we should be taking advantage of that and making money off of these people.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I completely agree. I mean, everyone on this podcast right now will take a bullet for their team.
Yep.
And, you know, it's absolutely amazing because no other sport will bring this kind of passion that football does. And it doesn't matter where you're from. If you're a football supporter, that will absolutely, definitely bring out the best in you. Doesn't matter where you're from, because over the past year or so, I've learned that football supporters all over the world will do absolutely anything for their team, you know, whether they be from England, Spain, Italy, the USA, Australia, Africa. No, it doesn't really matter. If you're a football supporter, you're the best supporter in the world. That's how I see it in my eyes.
Absolutely.
Yep. That's very true. I think that's, and it's starting to change as the world gets smaller, you know, via internet and other ways. But I mean, you think the resistance to the footy, the culture, because, you know, I mean, it's a whole style of dress. It's a way of thinking. It's music. I mean, it encompasses. I mean, in most places, I mean, footy even affects the politics of a country. And so do you think the resistance to the culture in this country stems from the perception that, you know, it's still un-American, or it's a lesser contact sport, that it's not gladiator enough, or that it's just an immigrant sport? You know, for you know, America, you know, it's kind of viewed as, oh, that's that sport that those brown people from the South speak or play.
Yeah, the biggest difference, you know, and I hear the passion in Alex's voice. I hear it in Kurt. Is that the game is not a part of the culture in the United States. It's just not. It's a pastime. It's something. When kids we have record numbers of kids playing the sport, But the reason they're playing it has nothing to do with culture, heritage, or history. It has to do with, well, little Johnny can't play. He's not big enough to play NFL-type throw ball. He's not tall enough to play NBA. Let's buy him some soccer shoes and let him play out there. And then he plays that, and he gets tired of it, and he moves on to something else. And that's the way support is here. You know, they see the sport, even those who follow it. We have people that come to Silverbacks games, but if there's a concert going on that they really want to see, they'll think nothing of skipping a football match to go see, you know, Led Zeppelin or whoever, you know,
right,
that's playing, because it just doesn't mean that much to them. It's a pastime. It's not even a sport. It's a pastime. It's something they do when they don't have anything else to do. In England, it's not. You know, or most parts of the world, football is ingrained in the culture, and that's a big difference. Trying to explain that to an American, though, is very difficult. And that's why things like promotion and relegation and subjects like that don't make sense to many Americans, because they don't have any reference to it. You know, they grow up with throw ball and the round ball stuff and baseball, and it's all self-contained, and they're the only ones playing it. And
right.
So they have a monopoly on it. Football is completely different. But try to explain that to your typical American fan, and it's difficult. It's difficult to do that.
Yeah. Go ahead, Kurt.
I completely agree with what Ray just said. Football, it's kind of a thing, you know, like in America, you get grown up and you're watching this football thing, where when you're young, you know, your parents say, you know, you're on ready to play this actual sport, so you'll play football before you play hand egg, and then it just kind of spirals out of control there. I think it's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, I truly respect what you guys do. You know, you guys love football. That's what you do. And to be honest, in the next 50 years, I see football completely dying out within North America, because that's just the way it is, and it's really, really saddening.
If it stays the same, yeah.
I have to agree, unfortunately, because I do think that there are problems like this not only in football, but even in things like music. Like, I play piano, and I know that when I was finishing high school, like, I realized how fewer and fewer people were signing up for the classes, and it was just dying out. And then even people who signed up for things like the guitar class, that new kids were coming in for the wrong reasons. You know, they didn't really want to learn. They just, you know, they had this perception that it was easy, and then when they got to it and it wasn't interesting as they assumed it would be, then they were just like not passionate about it, and you know, they weren't going in for the love of the music. And I think that's the main thing. That's the problem with football. If kids aren't going in for the love of the culture behind football, then it's like there's no foundation to grow from there.
Right. Like we said, it's a pastime, and I mean, you do have pockets, but you know, for me, with the you know, being a rabid Arsenal supporter as well. I mean, it's you know, Americans play footy the opposite of everyone else in the world, so you know, I get football all year. But at the same time, you know, the way things were done this week, I mean, of course I'm going to go watch the local football, but I mean, I was almost tempted to say, screw it. I get more of an atmosphere going to the pub to watch the Arsenal, and the Euros are coming up. Well, I'm not going to really miss that much football if I don't go out. You know, of course I can't do that. You know, my DNA won't let me. But I don't know, this whole madness here with this, and just the short the short-sightedness and the excuses given, it just shows me, unfortunately, most of the people that do the decision making at our local club here, they really don't get it. I mean, God bless them. I don't think they have malicious intent, but they just don't get it. At the end of the day, they just don't.
Yeah, and it's problematic because, as I said earlier, if there's no foundation for football, it's bad for the long term, and I think it's one of the reasons that one of the biggest cities in the U.S., which is New York City, where I live, doesn't have a football field. We have New York Red Bulls playing out in New Jersey. What is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think what's missing here, and Fu being local, you can chime in on this if you want, Fu, but I think what the club misses at the end of the day is that when the Silverbacks hit the field, they represent the pinnacle for this city of everyone else that touches a football daily in this town. They're it. That they represent all of us that play the game, that are involved in any way in the game. They are our top outlet. And when they pull a maneuver like this, it says to a lot of people, especially our immigrant community here, oh, Mickey Mouse Americans. Yeah, I'm not going to bother. I'm not going to bother with that nonsense.
Right.
Fu?
Well, I'm trying to figure out, and Dre said it before. Look, soccer has become the most popular sport in this country for children between the ages of 6 and 13 or something like that. More kids play soccer than Little League baseball and football, almost combined. And with the immigrant community in this country the way it is, they play soccer. Almost every country in the world that's represented in this that lives here plays soccer.
Right.
Now, sure, they might get into basketball, the Czechs and Greeks and all that sort of stuff, but I mean, 99% of the people play soccer, and they support soccer. They support the national team. And to think that, gosh, and I'm going to, if you're really in tune with the community and what you want to do, which is bring more people in, to get more season tickets, to sell more single game tickets,
right,
to improve your vendors lot, to improve traffic control, to improve facilities at the field, at the stadium. You need people to fill the seats. And if you're not getting people to fill the seats and you're not trying to grow what your brand, the Atlanta Silverbacks brand in this case, then what are you trying to do? It's Arsenal. It doesn't have a problem with money. They never will. We will always have money. Our shares are always going to be worth more than almost every other football shares in the Premier League.
Yeah.
But they want to make money. But at the same time, they want to put something out there. They want to help people and entertain people and show football for what it really is, which is a community sport. Like I said in a podcast, probably number 32, it's the last true socialist sport. You need 11 people to win. And that's what it is. And that's a community, as a community and as a football team, you need to be together to win. But that's not what I read that interview, by the way, just now, that he had with that IMS people and that Boris, and I about threw up.
Yeah.
I can't believe what crap that man is talking, because he evaded all the questions that were asked about, well, your supporters groups are really upset. Why would you not go to them and say, hey, what do you think if we sold this? Although I can picture 109 actually going, oh, that's a great idea. Take the money and go.
Yeah.
Take a tour of the Space Needle and have fun in the Emerald City. Oh, hell no. I could just see Jason's face if somebody would have told Hooligan that. I want to see those people here. I want to see Drew Carey and his fat ass and the rest of those neon green shirt wearing pukes down here in this town.
Yep.
You know, and that's what I was looking forward to. I was looking forward because, they have several huge supporters groups in Seattle. I'd love to see them bring 150, 200 people here. That'd have been great. To show Atlanta fans what it means to support soccer. And that's, oh, God. Oh, now you're just making me mad again. Now I'm gonna have to tweet that guy Paul Allen again. Thanks, I appreciate that.
That's what
happens. And not for nothing, the club misses out that Atlanta is a town full of fickle fans, and I can tell you now at the end of the day, you didn't really hear Boris mention any of the supporters groups, because none of us know him. Michael Oakey comes and talks to all of us face to face, shakes hands. Boris doesn't care. And, in a town with such fickle fans that will, even a team like the Braves, the baseball Braves, that are, did so well throughout the 90s and the early 2000s, from what I can read. If they go on a losing streak, half that stadium, half Turner Field is empty. Well, guess what? Silverbacks, you've been on a losing streak, and you now have 3 supporters groups that show up every week. And this it flies in the face of logic. I'm sorry, when you have momentum, just to stop it dead, and it's kind of par for the course for the footy in this town.
Yeah.
It just really, I mean, it really is. And yeah, I think if we had a large contingent of Seattle fans come here, I think at least for, the Ultras and 309, to have someone come into our ground and take liberties and outsing us, that would have incensed me. And it gives me all that much more motivation, to help the team grow its fan base.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the people that have commented on the Facebook page, and put really negative crap on there, have never been to a game. That Seattle game was going to be their first game. But, maybe if 1,000 of those people came and they saw the passion between the 3 supporters groups, 2 in particular, 109 just kind of beats drums, maybe out of 1,000, maybe 700 of them would have gone, hey, we want in on this. This is a good time. Y'all have fun around here. This isn't like the, Turner Field where we have, 5 security people in every section of the stands. Y'all jump around and sing and joke with each other. It's not sit down and golf clap. I just go ahead.
I was going to say that I think that maybe if they saw this situation as a money-making opportunity instead, like the way that they advertise, national team friendlies, and that, brings a lot of fans to the stadiums because it's an opportunity to see, like, especially for the immigrant fans, their home team coming here, which is not that often that you get to see that. And that's like the equivalent for an MLS team coming to like this small stadium in the middle of nowhere and the local population getting to see, MLS superstars. And that should just be advertised everywhere. And that would help them make so much more money, and that would really encourage the supporters to come out. So that's a huge loss,
Yeah, absolutely.
It really is. And, Fu and I have talked about this multiple times. Now, I want you to chime in, Fu. on this one. The United States, the footy culture here really has it backwards. They'll go out in droves and fill anywhere that's available for the national team, but they slag off their locals. Everywhere else in the world, it's the other way around. You show up for your club and you generally slag off the national team.
I went to a World Cup qualifier in 2001 in Alabama. I think we played against Guatemala.
Yeah.
And there were not that many American fans there. Which should point out that, I think this area is right for someone to come in and show what American football is, American soccer is about.
Right.
And, and to be honest, it was a very, everybody was vocal. It was a really entertaining match to watch. It wasn't my first time seeing the American national team, but, it was fun. I got to see all the players. I got to make fun of, who was the manager that? Was that Bruce Arena? Yeah, because the week before we lost to Mexico when we started 4 players who hadn't played a match in like the last 7 months because they were injured or something. And I screamed at them the entire time because their locker room was right by where I was sitting actually. But for people to see that sort of passion, the 309 at Silverbacks Park has got several people to come over and sit with us and get season tickets over there because of what everyone else saw, which was the passion, and for people to see that sort of stuff. I have people that are interested in football now because of the way I talk about the game and what I show as far as what I like, and people always use passion as a byword sometimes, but to be honest with you, there's really nothing more passionate than a football supporter anywhere in the world.
Right.
Except unless you're English, because then. Hey, look, you can read my timeline on Twitter, man. Almost all my Gooner supporter friends are the English national team, so they absolutely despise their national team.
Yeah.
You're not picking my players. Why should I follow you? But and for them to give the big up to the national team, well, that's just the U.S. Soccer Federation again, and just not really caring about anything else. I want to know where all the money we get from Nike, where's it going to? I want to know where all this money that we have, as far as kits and et cetera, where's this money going?
Right.
Because it's not doing anything to go towards growing the sport of football and getting better players in our countries.
What's interesting to me on the club level about a lot of these teams is everyone's like, oh, Beckham came over, Keane came over, Henry came over. They're playing on these teams, and, those are the teams that you want to host and have exhibition matches with.
Yeah, payday.
Well, you know what? Why is the U.S. Federation not busy developing, the American Beckham, the American Henry? The answer lies, to me at least, y'all can chime in on this, that the game here, because of incidents like this, with this Open Cup, has become so stale, typical, and uncompelling that when we do get top-level players, like your Clint Dempseys, they itch to leave. They don't want to play in the leagues here. Landon Donovan, you would make his dream come true to sell him to Everton. He would go in a heartbeat. He would have gone to Everton 10 years ago in a heartbeat. But the MLS has him under their thumb. The U.S. Federation has him under their thumb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's totally why a lot of players from the U.S. men's national team play abroad. I mean, that's the first thing that I saw when I saw the 23-player roster that Klinsmann recently announced for the next 5 matches, and the first thing that I saw was the teams that the players were from, and almost all the teams were from all abroad, all over the place, from the EPL, SPL, Bundesliga, Eredivisie, Liga Mexicana even. They'd even rather play in the Mexican league than be playing here. And that's really saying something.
You're absolutely right.
Well, I've been studying this kind of subject, over the past couple of weeks. And one word I've heard of a lot of this past couple of weeks is delusion. Like the American public is deluded when it comes to football, and I don't think that's the matter at all. I think it's the way they've been brought up, being brought up in association with football. Whether they've had parents, grandparents, friends that are major football fans, and that's kind of what it is. It's not delusion at all, it's the way you've been brought up.
Yeah, it is the way that you're brought up, because, people I know the very few people I know who are into football here, the one person I know who's really passionate about it is from abroad, again, from England. Faz is on the show a lot, and I know that she was into it. She owes a huge part of her being a Liverpool fan to her dad, so I do think that the way you're brought up has to do with it. I mean, it's just, even me, with the passion that I have for FC Dynamo in Moscow, it's in a large part due to the fact that my dad's been a fan for so many decades, and he's seen them play, and he knows their history, and that's a huge part of why I'm so addicted to watching the games and have this passion for cheering for the team.
Yeah, that's what's missing here. What Alex and Kurt just said, because the sport here, and we went into this with Ted earlier, but the sport here has a history as long as England. There were leagues here at the turn of the turn of the century in 1900. However, they were closed. They were closed league systems, and they kept failing. And so although they started, they would stop. And so there was never that handing down your football heritage to your children. Right. There was none of that. Now, add to that, when you have the NFL hand egg stuff, or throw ball as we like to call it, baseball, basketball, these are sports unique to the United States. And before the purists out there say, oh, they play basketball in Europe, they play football here and there. No, the sport originated here. It's played at the highest level here. And although it is played a smidgen in different areas, there's no real competition to the Americans. No. When it comes to these major sports. And what happens is, because you have this, exclusivity with these sports, you can call yourselves the best. That's why you have a basketball league that calls their championship a world championship, although no one else outside the country is playing in it. Mm-hmm. They can't do that with football. They can't do that with MLS. You can't call yourselves the best on any level, whether it's club or country. I think that really bothers a lot of Americans. And that's why the sport, in some sectors, is belittled, But I think that also coupled with that, because of that attitude, they don't want to follow the world model. Right. Where you have promotion and relegation, where you have an academy system that works today. No, they replace our development system with something called the super draft, not the draft, the super draft. Right. Which mimics the throw ball. But that's not a way you can develop here. The world has shown us how to do it, basically, and we ignore it. And that's what's frustrating to me.
Well, not only that, but again, the U.S. kind of we got it backwards. We have this business model for the leagues first, and everywhere else in the world, they know to some degree. Of course, you can't bow down to the supporters totally, because it is a business, and you do have to handle your business. But at the same time, most clubs cater to supporters.
They handle the business in Europe just fine, in Africa, in China.
Yeah, the passion for the game comes first. If you handle the passion correctly, the money will follow.
Exactly.
And we have a disease in a 100-year history in this country, actually longer than 100 years, since 1894, of mismanaging the game. Because nobody brings the history of the game in the United States to the forefront. Therefore, the history is forgotten, so the mistakes of the past continue to be made.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we're, with our local club here in Atlanta, that's what you're seeing.
Hooligan?
Yeah. Go ahead.
You and Dre hit it pretty good. Dre, you referred to it as the world model. Hooligan, you referred to it as the business model, and that's exactly why it's a systemic failure throughout America, is because MLS and the teams, and even you get down to some of the NASL teams like Atlanta and the problems they're having, they're treated as if it's a business only and not a club, not a sport club. I spent 3 years in Germany, and I played soccer there as well. It was like a 5th or 6th division league, but even those 5th and 6th division teams, each village had their own field, had their own complex, and that was part of the village. That was part of the township, no matter how small it was. And the town itself ran that team, and the team helped run the township or the village, however you want to look at it. There was profit to be made, but it wasn't priority because it took care of itself over the long run. The passion that the town brought to each game, and the beers that they sold and the brats that they sold and everything else that went along with the business model of the club, it all took care of itself because the passion was there. It's like the Friday Night Lights syndrome here that we have in Texas with high school football. It's the same concept in Europe, in these small towns. It takes care of itself. And that's what U.S. soccer is failing to do, is treat it like that. They're treating it more as a CEO type of business.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It's a recurring image because, we're repeating the problems of the past with the leagues that kept on recurring and then breaking up again. And then we got the MLS. And if we don't want the same thing to happen to the MLS, we need to convert to the world football pyramid model already. And we need to take that business risk and just go for it. And because if we want to get to that point, like people have been saying, where, like Barcelona fans say, you don't think of a season, you think of a history. And if we want to think of a history at some point in this country, of a history of football, then we really need to step it up and just convert to the football pyramid already. And I think that will be a great foundation for forming a history and for having the type of supporters that they have abroad, where they can always say with confidence that their team is the best, even if they end up losing the cup however many times.
Right. And that's the thing. The way the clubs are run here, it doesn't build passion. I mean, I can tell you here in Atlanta, those of us that do go out to every game, this just kind of punctuates frustration that we've had since the end of last season. Because we have a competent staff that can play, but I'll go ahead and put it out there. They're not coached. There's no discipline on that team. None. I mean, they can't even hold a shape.
6 red cards in 8 games.
Yeah, 6 red cards in 8 games. They can't hold a shape.
Wow.
I mean, it's just, it's madness because all of them know how to play.
Minus 8 goal difference too. 8 matches.
Yeah.
Freaking, like, we sold our best defender for no reason.
Right.
You know, the New York Red Bulls have had 4 clean sheets since that guy started playing for them. Tyler Ruthven. Figure it out.
Oh,
if you don't have the spine, you can't play well. Oh, that's disappointing. Oh.
Yeah.
It really is. It's disappointing for this team that we have. You know, little cliques are allowed to exist within the team. You know, it just comes across, and of course, none of us on this podcast that are Atlanta fans really, know what goes on inside the locker room, but it sure as hell gives the appearance that nobody's in charge. The inmates are running the asylum, as it were. And that's not how you have a successful football team.
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that.
That's what happens when money takes over, when it's about, fast and easy money and not about the game and the beauty of the game. And going back to what someone mentioned a minute ago about, selling good players, and this reminded me instantly of with the New York Red Bulls when they let, what's his name, Juan Pablo Angel go, and they got a bunch of players. They got Mehdi Belushi, who's just terrible on the field. Just how can you give him the number 10? We had so much success with Angel, and I have no idea why they decided to do that. And I thought it's probably just another money-making scheme, getting all these younger players, and it was so upsetting, And after that, they just went on this downhill streak, and I heard that they had a few successful games recently, but honestly, I don't think that they'll keep it up this season.
Well, you have Tyler Ruthven. The Red Bulls got a hell of a defensive player. And all he's going to do playing with the caliber of players at the Red Bulls is improve. That's all he's going to do, because he's the type of person, like many of us Southern boys are, that if you tell him he can't do something, he'll smile and he'll show you that he can. Mm-hmm. And not only can he do it, he can do it a lot better than you think he can do it.
Just like WFN.
That's exactly right. I mean, Alex, but I don't know if you're aware of this with a lot of the trades that go on in MLS. The MLS owns all the players. They don't really have independent contracts with the clubs because it's a franchise system, and the way they've set it up is so they can have, equality somewhat. So the MLS owns every player. So if they see one team is lacking and that guy may not be getting play time, they go to the club and go, hey, we want to bring this guy over and send this guy over there to improve that team to make that team more compelling.
Right, but you also have to look at EPL clubs like Manchester United, who have veteran players and who bring back veteran players for the sake of the club playing better. And it's not. I do agree that younger players have to be brought on, but I do think that you can't do completely without the veteran players.
Oh, absolutely.
It's going to negatively affect the game.
Yeah, we saw that at Arsenal, last year and going into this year for a moment. But at the same time, once again, what you're speaking about, and allowing Tyler Ruthven to go to New York. Bobby, you can correct me if I'm wrong. He went on a free, didn't he?
Yes, he was not re-signed by. Well, he was not. He was offered another contract, but for the same money, and he knew that. And I hope I'm allowed to talk about this now, because he and I DM'd each other quite a bit when all this was going on. because I kept on asking him, so when are you going to come out and blah, blah, blah. But they offered him a contract with the same amount of money, and he says, look, I can't do that. I can't do it. There's people making more money than me on the team that don't deserve it.
Right.
And, which, as a person, everybody has that competitive edge. And I'm pretty sure, to use a prime example, I'm pretty sure, Josh Rosicki's mad at Diaby for making the money he makes because Diaby doesn't play.
Right.
But I mean, let's face it. And I'm happy for Tyler Luthman. Bro, you made it, man. That's great. But I mean, I wish everyone else could have seen what he did. He went out there and played for NASL, which isn't like the best league in the world, and they might have shit referees and, horrible attendances and stuff of that nature. But I mean, you can't make it to be a professional footballer.
Absolutely. I mean, and I kind of put Tyler on blast earlier in the week. But yeah, again, the Silverbacks allowing him to go and then continuing to pay a high wage to, folks that won't show up for practice, that, go out drinking every night, whatever the case may be, because a lot of that goes on within the club, unfortunately. There's no discipline, and now they get to see a guy that they could have easily retained playing in the top flight of this country. Again, on our club, short-sighted, very short-sighted. Well, guys, we're going to have to wrap it up for this evening. It was a pleasure having all of y'all on, and hopefully we can continue this conversation sometime in the near future.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yes, it's been great.